Yeah. Morning, everyone. Chaplain Keith here. We are doing something quite interesting today. We're talking about, I think you can see it on the camera, energies of a round dwelling and an east and facing it east. We'll get into that in just a minute. First, we want to welcome all the light spirits, all the light entities that might be joining us today, as well as anybody in the room and any of you on YouTube. We do this every Sunday at 10 o'clock a.m. in Mountain Time, and we want to welcome you all here. I want to thank my two volunteers, my wife Mary, who is running the camera, and my brother Paul, who runs all the technical stuff, and they're both volunteers for this. So we want to thank them so much for being here and helping us. Um, with that said, let's get right down to business, and we will, since we have invited everybody in and asked for all the light entities to join, we want to get right down to giving ourselves some time to relax and accepting whatever it is that is part of you today. So let's go ahead and sit down. So let's take a little bit of time and each one of us say a prayer to your own deity that may help you to relax into today and bring out whatever it is you need to hear or absorb or accept or whatever it is that you need to do today. So let's just take a few moments of silence and pray to our deities. As we finish up our prayers, let's go ahead and relax with a small relaxation exercise, not really a meditation, just a relaxation exercise. And starting at the top of your head, relax your scalp, your temples, relax your forehead, and take that crease out from in between your forehead and in between your eyes. Relax your eyebrows, your eyes, your cheekbones, your jaw, dropping that tongue down to the bottom of your mouth. Go ahead and relax your neck and your ears, and drape your shoulders away from your ears. As you drop your shoulders, go ahead and relax your upper arms, your elbows, your lower arms, your wrists, hands, and fingers. Relax your chest and your upper back, and then relax your belly and your lower back. Without forcing yourself, just sink down into whatever it is you're sitting on and relax your buttocks and hips. And relax your upper legs, your knees, your lower legs, your ankles, feet, and toes. With each breath out, breathing with your belly and keeping your spine straight. With each breath out, relax another part of your body. And again, calm your body down. An exercise for calming, an exercise for relaxation to absorb whatever it is you need to absorb today. So we come back to this room relaxed and ready to bring whatever it is into your heart. Open your eyes and give yourself to the universe, to your deity, or whomever, as we proceed on. So today, as I said, we're talking about energies, what energies are brought in, what do we do, what we do with building a roundhouse and facing it east. Let me explain why we've come into this. The wife and I have another channel of what we're doing on our land, and we'll link that below. And we have chosen to build a roundhouse and make the main door to the east. And as we were staking this roundhouse out, um, I mentioned in it that we would talk about that in this ministry in this church today. And so that's what brought us to this air thing. But I got to mention that we bought this land here in Colorado. Oh, not even about 9 months ago we bought this property. But we've been planning this for many, many years, at least 5 years before we came here. Not knowing where we were settling, just knowing we were moving to the Colorado area and south of Montana. But initially, we've always had in our mind to build a roundhouse and face it east. And I was drawn to this very early on. And the thing about it was that I had no idea why. I didn't do any research on it, didn't do any looking at anything, just said, I want a roundhouse and I want to face it east. So the point that I'm making is it came to me intuitively. And then after that is when we decided to look into why it was that we wanted to do it this way. And that's the way spirit works. Spirit works without having to give you any really real kind of reason, just telling that's the right way to do it for you. So that's pretty impressive to me because I had no idea at that point. I mean, I had heard things, of different ancient um, dwellings, different ancient buildings that had been round or been facing east, but that wasn't in my mind when that happened. When I had this drawing to this, that I was drawn to do these kinds of dwellings. Then we first looked into a yurt, but if you watch the other channel, you'll see what we're doing actually. But it's important for everybody to know that spirit doesn't have to tell you the why. It just has to say, spirit just has to influence you to saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to understand this. I'm going to be open to whatever it is that I'm being told. We have there's a young girl that we know that says that when asked a question and she'll say something about something spiritually, and you ask her how she knows that, and she'll say, I don't know, I just know it. And that's what I'm talking about. She has no reasoning. She doesn't understand why she knows it or how she knows it. She just knows that she does. And so that's my whole point. So I actually had to research what um why because the intellectual persons that we are, we want to work in our mental bodies and know the why and know what it is intellectually, even though it's not necessary. It's not necessary at all. If you're being directed by your deity, if you're being directed by messengers of your deity, if you're being directed by spirit guides or angels or whatever it is that you're being influenced by, that's all that matters. We don't have to have reason for it other than that's what we're supposed to do. So I did make a few notes today to do this, so just bear with me as I look over my notes. But I will say a roundhouse, and that's what we want to deal with, I think, first is the roundhouse. And would like to say that a couple of things about it. Round is unity. Round always shows us as infinite, no beginning, no end. Eternity, no beginning, no end. For the same reason that that people wear wedding bands. Wedding bands signify be no beginning and no end to a marriage. Um, so because it means that, that means that you're part of the whole. You're part of the one. Now, interestingly enough, nature in itself doesn't have any sharp edges. Even if you look at a tree and you think the branch is coming out at a sharp edge like this, if you really look at it, there's a curve in there. It doesn't come out and just boom out. There's a little curve in there at the V. Nothing comes out in real sharp edges. Well, I won't say nothing. I mean, pine needles are pretty sharp, but it's not. Even if you look at most leaves, they are go like this. They're rounded. Most leaves, not all. Maple leaf goes like this, but if you look real close at the maple leaf, there's a little rounding with it, or you think there's a V. There's a little rounding. So the point that I'm making here is that a round house helps to keep you in touch with nature so you're keeping in touch with the outside, but you're also, because it's round and you're inside it, it keeps you in touch with your inside. So the roundhouse is more of a natural shaped thing. Now that's the spiritual side of it. I mean, I guess I can't put my grandson in the corner if I build a roundhouse and he kind of get upset with him, but I go tell him to find a corner and see how long it takes him to find one. I don't see my grandson that often, but anyway, it also signifies the secular the secular cycles of everything from life to death, to, undivided whole, where everything is in a circle. If you cut a tree down, the tree trunk is in a circle, and every ring inside it is in a circle, and that shows you that the tree dies and falls and fertilizes the next tree that comes up, and it's a cycle. It's a circle. It's a big circle, and that it certainly signifies that. Um, it signifies, as we already spoke about real quickly, about interconnectedness with the beginnings of the inside and outside. But as you look at things throughout the cosmos, you'll also see that most things are in a circle or a sphere, just like the Earth. Well, you got the sun that's a sphere, and the moon that's a sphere, and all these other planets and stars are all spheres, they're all around. So you're sort of symbolizing the entire universe. Okay, and there are many cultures that have used roundhouses in the past. Um, many cultures, because of ceremony and and keeping in touch with nature and keeping in touch with their inner selves, they use these round dwellings for spiritual, almost what we would call a church today, but they're spiritual dwellings. And so it brings in more harmony because it's a round space. It's much more inviting because there's no sharp edges, nothing cutting it in half, nothing doing anything. Even if you would look, and I don't think you can see, but if you can look in the corners here in this room that we're at, they're not square, they're rounded. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there's no square, there's no real seam in this room. It is just, it's real rounded. And that's pretty interesting to me because that's part of the keeping the flow of the energies without having being blocked and shoved into something real hard. For instance, we do a lot with water on this earth, and if you watch water in nature, it never hits a 90-degree angle. Only in the plumbing in your house does it hit a 90-degree angle. It goes in circles. It runs up against the bank of a river and circles back down. It doesn't go like this. It runs up in circles around and creates a cove, a cave, a cove of secular nature. Um, So it also suggests, and this is something I had written on my notes. It also suggests no boundaries because you don't have a square to put you into a boundary. It's always going around. It's always circular. So that's some of the things that pretty interesting about a round house. Now I did some research last night, and because of the no boundaries situation, it creates more of a balance, and that was something that I was reacquainted with last night. Was that creates more of a balance in your life, more of a balance with nature and a balance with yourself. It promotes peace and calm because of no corners. It also, interestingly enough, if you want to get into something other than, like we said, we already talked about the energy flow, but what about the flow of what's inside the building? Well, what's interesting is that when we started researching the actual house that we're building, we found out that and we're going to have a skylight at the top. And what it suggested was that and this is not spiritual, but it's something interesting about a dome that we're building at a circular house, is that the heat rises and it gets to the top, and because of the skylight, it cools down and comes back down, and it just keeps going in a circle, in a sort of a circle like that. And what that means is that you have a more constant um, heating element. You don't spend as much on heating or as cooling it as you would normally. It creates a great, tremendous airflow, and it's sort of a self-regulating climate. And the aerodynamics of it puts up with a lot of the outside forces like hurricanes and tornadoes and wind and so forth. But those are not the spiritual side of it. Those are just some of the, for those people who need to have other reasonings. Those are some of the more practical side of what we're using. Now, along with that, we're planning on putting our door to the east. Again, I had no reason to know why I needed it to the east, but I always, I've always in my entire life, I've always been interested in sunrise. Sunrise is my favorite time of day. So it was only natural for me to be be attracted to having my door to the east. And this, what I mean, my door is going to be the front door, the main entrance to the dwelling. And I was always attracted to the east anyway because of the sunrise. And there's many different ideas out there, but most places have something. There are cathedrals that are built with the doors to the east, and if they don't have it to the east, in most churches, the altar is in the east, and that's significant to that religion. You want to, if you're of that religion, might want to look up why they do that. Um, I'm not into trying to teach a religion here. I'm trying to bring in the energies of it, but the facing of the east in many cases is because it is believed that when the sun rises, you get the most spiritual energies. It's the new beginning of the day. It's the starting to balance out and bring up new life for the day. It's a spiritual awakening. It means fresh starts. Um, many other cultures and religions always ask to face east when you're meditating, and there are different reasons for that, I suppose. Um, that I'm not going to get into today. That again, that can be looked up, but it is common for people to face east into the sun, and many cultures and many um, spiritual beliefs to face east. from almost all major religions. And that's interesting because I really believe that the energies of the morning are the most potent to me. And that's probably why I was so attracted to the sunrise in the morning. I don't remember, well, I do remember. I do remember, and I don't remember what age I was. I was somewhere maybe around 12 years old, 11 years old, when I started saying to myself, I want to be up at sunrise. And I got up as a child, and I got up in time to see the sunrise. Now, I didn't do it every day, but I did do it from time to time. I said, I'm ready to see the sunrise. I want to be up before daylight, yeah, before daylight, and watch the sunrise." I also can remember another time when I was in a gathering as a teenager where me and there's this other gal who, young person my age, who we were at this all night gathering, super obviously chaperoned. I don't know how old we were, 15, 16 years old. And she wanted to stay up and see the sunrise because we had stayed up so late at night doing other things. And her and I were the only two that stayed up all night long to watch the sunrise. But the sunrise was very important to me. The energies that bring up with the sunrise, even today, you'll see in the other video how we did some of this stuff. And now I did disagree with one of the things that I read just recently online, where they said if you want to find the east to put your door or your window or whatever you're putting there, most people would like the door because that's an inviting thing. The energies are, you're inviting the energies in by having a door there instead of a window. So as you invite that in, it becomes very, very personal and inviting. Um, and they said just get a compass out and look at the compass. But I disagree with that because due east only shows up twice a year on the equinoxes. And that is because of magnetic north, you are off on that. And they were saying for this, I don't know what it was, feng shui or something, said to use a compass. And that was just the author's idea, not the actual spiritual side of it. It was just the author's idea. And I disagree with that. And I wanted to point that out because magnetic north affects where east is. And so what we did, as you may see at some point, we actually went out a week ago and we monitored the sun as it came up on the equinox, on the autumn equinox, so that we could see exactly where to face the door. That's how particular I was about facing this door to the east. I wanted to invite the energies in. I wanted to invite the people in, because as you bring in good energies from the sun, as you bring in the new beginnings from the sun and it stays around, it becomes very inviting to guests and to people coming into the house, and helps with prosperity. Now they say prosperity, but when I talk about prosperity, I don't necessarily mean money. I mean prosperity of life, spiritual awareness, harmony in the household, bringing in balance to everything. And that's part of prosperity to me. Prosperity to me is not about cash in my pocket all the time. It's about, it's the same thing as you can say about success. What is success for you? And, success for you may not have anything to do with money. Some people find very big success in volunteer work. So we want to bring in the prosperity of spirit. We want to bring in the inviting people in and having them feel good, having them feel welcome, having them feel part of, and having them see that. So it is a very positive energy flow that comes into the house, and because of that, it affects everything. Um, Let me refresh my new beginnings, growth, prosperity. And it says here, now this is something I'm just gonna, it says the direction of the sun in the east associated with power, intellect, and creativity. Facing east homes are often recommended, this is my notes, are often recommended for intellectual, creative, and spiritual professions because of the energies coming in, of course. So I think that there's a lot to it. I will want to bring out, this is an interesting thing to bring it into science or practicality. And I just saw this last night, and I had no idea about this. But in 2018, there was a study suggesting that facing east while performing a mental task gives higher brain coherence patterns and better performance, supporting traditional archaeological beliefs. And that's done by an EEG pattern. And if you don't know what an EEG pattern is, I had to look it up. It's the electrical current that they put these electrodes on your head, and they study the electrical current in your brain. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, there is more to that on every direction there is if you want to look it up, which directions are not good to face when you're on a task, what good directions are, but they're saying the east is by far the best direction to be facing. That's interesting because as soon as I saw that, I thought of my shop where I'm facing west when I work at my workbench, but I open my door east, which brings in the energy. So I'm not sure how that balances, but I would think that that would sort of be a balance of energies. And so, yeah, I think that this might be a little shorter talk today, but I think that that's quite interesting that I was drawn to it long before I knew a lot of this other stuff. And of course, like I said, a lot of ancient dwellings, megalithic dwellings, and different areas of the world face east, face some of them face directly to, you can see them where you can see the equinox. And then there might be another window or something or another break in the ruins that brings in a solstice, and another one that brings in another solstice. And that's what we're intending to do. We're going to have two windows on each side that run when the solstices happen, the sun will come up in those windows, which as you watch, you'll see how this is all done. But solstices are about 23 and a half degrees off of the equinox. And so we're going to do that mathematically in our building. But the easterly thing in a lot of religions and a lot of faiths and a lot of cultures have significance, and people from the Druids to the other northern European countries, the Celtics, the even the some of the other ones in the islands of Ireland and even in England have some. Of course, the Middle East has some, and the what they call that, the subcontinent of India, and I'm sure part of the main continent of Asia, and all these, including here in North America, have all had dwellings. You can go down to New Mexico or other places. Even an igloo is put into a round. There are spiritual dwellings found all over the country now. Of course, igloos probably aren't ancient because they probably melt before they become ancient. but all cultures, is my point, are round, and a lot of them face east, and there has to be a significance to that. It's not something that is just, well, especially when it's cross culture. When it's cross culture, there's got to be more significance to it than when it's just one culture, or you would seem that way. You do the research, you do the figuring, you give me some comments as to what you think about it, as to how you feel about it, and tell me if you feel it's hogwash. Tell me if you feel it's something to look into further. I'm not as versed on this as I am on other subjects because I was just attracted to it, drawn to it, and I never questioned it. So the research I did was more for personal knowledge after the fact. And so I don't know that I have been completely intellectualized about this entire subject, either one, the roundhouse or the easterly direction of the dwelling. So that's unless I have comments or questions, that's all I have for today on this subject. Any questions or comments, Paul?
No.
Okay. I would really like some kind of interaction as we go through. We do want to invite everybody to be part of this, whether it be whatever your faith is, whatever your belief system is. We want you to feel welcome here. So please give us comments on what else you'd like to hear about. Give us thumbs up, subscribe, and give us a chance to reach other people by you sharing with other people that you know of, and we'll move on from there. So if there's nothing else, I will say, be spiritual in everything you do, and we will see you next week. Thank you much.